You can get right up here with me if you need to see better.
What time do you wake up, Jesse?
7 o'clock.
I feel like you look decent every day.
Oh, thank you.
How do you do that?
What time do you wake up? You look so decent. Best compliment ever. I love it. You're so sweet.
I just can't do that every day.
I come to school looking like a hobo, but my kids will go to school looking like $1 million.
There you go. Oh, yeah. My girls do too.
My daughter heads out in the
I look
Nike
like
shoes and leggings and a sweatshirt.
My girls did when they got to middle school.
Well, my daughter, she just ruins everything and rubs her fingers on stuff. So we're at that point where it's like, no.
My girls didn't wear dresses though. They just didn't like them.
Well,
I put them in them.
a bunch of those cute little ruffle hat boutiques that by the time she comes home, if I'm not supervising her, it's trash. Marvin's not.
My 8-year-old At least he was helping you. I'm glad. At least you caught it. Yeah. No, right. But I'm sitting there watching her. He didn't let her play the game with him. Oh, so she knew what she
So what haircut does he?
This is the 45.
What?
They're equal.
I was talking to this girl last night and at the game that went to Ames game. You know Jess that I met at the nail salon and she was going to Ames game afterwards. And she didn't have kids like at a young age. I think she was this or something or whatever. She had her other stuff. And she's like 33. She goes, I just want a little bit kid with red hair. I said, do they make those? Where do you get them? She's not about a dog.
Thank you.
That's very rare that the black dominance would not take over the redhead.
That's why it just came out.
Well, bless it. That's beautiful.
That's why I love those little
But you know Austin Vines, he did. But it was adopted out on that the
Yeah.
She was another one here. She was just like her. I told you last night. Is your daddy here?
Okay, guys. Real quick. What's that degree of elevation?
0.
Awesome. What about that one? that one? Awesome. Okay.
Can y'all see? We've got chairs.
Yeah, y'all are more than welcome to move up wherever you need to.
If y'all want to run up and just stay out of the view of the camera, like come around here.
Here's a chair.
It's sitting on there.
I'm gonna move this too.
Devin, there's a chair right over here.
Okay, guys. We section this off into the 4 quadrants, okay?
I pulled down about an inch subsection down here in the nave, and this is where we're gonna establish our guideline at. This is where you talk to your client, find out how long they want their hair. And this is where you set that. She's a little bit longer, so I'm just gonna pull it down. I'm gonna cut about an inch off down here. Just cleaning this up, pulling it down at 0 degree elevation. Making sure that everything is even all the way down. Okay, now your guideline set. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull down a little subsection, about a 1/2 inch to an inch, no more than that. And clip this out of the way. Okay, I'm gonna bring this down just to make sure that the length is the same. Sometimes you're gonna have to do a 0 degree before you actually get into the real haircut. It just depends on how much length they're wanting cut off. Okay, we're gonna do this side. Again, about a 1/2 inch to an inch subsection. I'm gonna clip this hair out of our way. Straight down at 0. Finding your guideline. And then making that cut. Okay, now, this is where your 45 degrees comes in. You're gonna take a section like this, and you're gonna comb this out at 45 degrees. If that's 0 and that's 90, then I need to be somewhere in the middle down here. 45 degrees, straight out. Okay, you see down here where my fingers are, that short piece, right there. It's hard to see unless you're right up here, but it's right there. That's my guideline from that first part that I cut at 0 degrees. You want to make sure you're not cutting your guideline. Pull it out at 45 degrees, and then you can see where you need to make your cut. And that's it. It is a legit 45 degree cut. That's all you're doing. Now you're going to take a little bit from your section beforehand as a guideline. You're going to comb this back out at 45 degrees again. Find your guideline down there at the bottom. Make sure you don't cut it. You need to let it slip into your fingers a little bit so you don't cut it. That's fine, but just make sure you're going a little bit past it. 45. We're going to take a little bit from this section for our guideline. We're going to comb this back out at 45 again. So now I have 2 guidelines. I have my guideline that I created at the nape of the neck in the beginning, and I have a little bit of a guide from the subsection before it. 45 degrees, making that cut. Just gonna kind of comb it out and make sure, okay? Now we're gonna move over here to this side. Combing this out, 45 degrees. There's my guideline right there. So it's safe to make that cut. And you do that all the way around. 45 degrees. There's my guideline. And if some of this hair over here gets in your way, it's totally okay to just clip that right out of the way. Pulling this out, 45. You can see the guideline down here at the bottom. And then you make that cut, okay? Now we're just gonna work it up like that, like we do any other haircut, a little bit at a time. Take your next subsection, about 1/2 of an inch. Clip this out of your way. Now, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna come right in here in the middle. We're gonna take a vertical section. We're pulling that hair from up underneath for our guideline, and we're bringing this right back to 45 degrees. You can see my guideline real well right there. Y'all see that guideline right there? Make sure you're not recutting it. Pull it out, find it, and then make that cut. Pull a little bit from your section you just cut into this one for an additional guideline. Pull that straight out at 45. You find your guideline, and I can see my guideline on the other side from my previous section. So I have two things telling me that I'm on track.
Is this gonna make it the layers?
Yes, this is like the longer layers. Like if somebody wanted the shorter layers up top and stuff, you would do a 90. And sometimes when they want that, I'll do a 90 and then I'll go in with my razor around their crown and stuff and kind of piece that up a little bit. Really just depends on what kind of cut they're wanting. But this specific cut is for longer layers. The only thing, like once this is done, she'll be layered down here, and she won't have any up here. So we're gonna do this again.
So if they ask for like short layers, you would do 90.
Yes, you would. You can do a 45, and if you're feeling real squirrely, go in and finish it with your razor. I happen to like those looks. I feel like they're more natural looking and not so blunt. But yes, if they wanted shorter layers, then you would traditionally do the 90 or something similar to it. Because as you're pulling this hair up here, you're cutting this shorter. But at the 45, it's all coming down here at the back. And so it's keeping a lot of length back here. So just gonna double check and make sure. See, there's a little hair right here I missed. Double checking myself.
What's the difference between the 180 and the 45?
The 180 and the 45. The 180 is when you pull everything up to the top, and it does have some shorter layers up here. But this right here literally keeps every single piece of hair at 45. Like you're not gonna pick any of it up. And if you pick hair up and elevate it and then cut it, it's going to be shorter. And this, you're keeping it all down towards the nape, basically. And so this is just a more weighted, longer version. Does that make sense? Then I'm gonna go back where I started in the middle. And go over here on this side. Pull it out at 45. I can see my guideline, so I know I can make that cut. Take a little bit from here, over here on this side. Combing this straight out at 45. And you can see, sanitize. Now we're going to do the same thing right here. Combing it straight, 45 degrees. My guideline is really visible. That's it. If y'all can do the 90, which y'all can, y'all totally got this haircut.
Can I?
You can. You know the 90. Your hands just have to be practiced at it, but you know it.
Cause that one, she's
The 90.
she is now a man.
She is now a man.
It's like, it's a movie too. It's like, it's a movie too.
Well,
She's
yeah.
top of it, I can't get
She's got elementary school hair. We have.
I think I had that haircut.
Hey, that'll be good when we start doing clipper cuts. Alright, we're gonna start back again. I took down another subsection. And again, it's really repetitive. Back out at 45 degrees. At this point, your guideline, if you can't automatically see it when you comb it out, you need to go back and start again. Because this haircut allows for a definite guideline.
Do you need to always try to start in the middle of those two sections?
You don't have to. You can start here because as long as you're following your guideline exactly, you're gonna be fine. In my personal opinion, I feel like it's a lot easier to control if you start in the middle, and I always know that I started in the middle, so there's no guessing which side did I start on. And so it's just easier for me. But as long as you're following your guideline, you're gonna be fine, no matter where you start. I mean, I would obviously start back here. I wouldn't start in the front. But when you're starting back here, if you wanna start on this side or this side, then that's okay. Just make sure you're following your guideline real well. Now we're gonna comb this back out. 45.
I'm sorry, she's hugging her doll. Looks like you're hugging her doll.
Oh, that's what I, yeah. I was
Oh my God. I just went stubborn. I'm like, oh, she's hugging her man. I was brushing her hair. We don't build relationships.
45. There's my guideline. We're gonna do it again. 45. I see my guideline on this side and my guideline from the subsection before it, because I pulled a little bit from it. And I made that cut. Now I'm gonna finish this up. 45. Find my guidelines. It's a whole long piece. Make that cut. And I'm being sure, like if I pull a little bit of this section over into that I'm fixing to cut, I'm not bringing the hair to my guideline. I'm bringing the guideline to the hair that I'm cutting, so I make sure that this angle stays consistent. All 45.
Did you say you bring the hair to the guideline? The guideline to the hair.
Yeah, like if I'm pulling, let's say I just finished this section and I'm fixing to cut this section. Well, I'm gonna take a little bit from this section that I just cut,
Right.
and I'm gonna comb it into this section that I'm fixing to cut. It's just very important that you bring your guideline to that and not bring your hair to where the guideline is. And we're cutting this again. Straight out at 45. There's your guideline. And there we go. Bring down another subsection. You're not supposed to clip your clips to yourself, so don't do what I'm doing.
I don't say that all the time, but I decided I would.
I try my best to remember. I'm like, don't do what I'm doing. That is a sanitation issue a mile wide.
When you go to work in the salon, you can do it, but.
Not stated.
Not for that test.
Not gonna ask you a little
Don't,
more.
don't do it for that test, please, girl.
Do we just clip it back up in her hair, or can we clip it on her? Do we clip it on
You
her head?
can clip it on her hair, you can clip it on the back of the cave, or, if you have like a towel down or something, you can lay it on top of the towel. The main thing, I mean, you need to be, you know, making sure you're taking care of sanitation and all that anyways, even like in the salon for sure. But at that board exam, like, make sure that that clip's not touching you or the table or anything like that, like.
And you're not going in your pocket.
Yeah. We're gonna do this again. Comb it down at 45. There's my guideline. And it's just repetition. The more you do these haircuts, the better you'll get and the faster you'll get.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The way you're holding her hair.
Absolutely.
Because that's something I have trouble with. Are you holding it like this, or are you overlapping your fingers? 'Cause I cannot tell.
I don't think I overlap my fingers. We gonna find out.
That's like they ask me a question, I gotta do it. I can't tell you.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. They sit beside each other.
Yeah, they're kinda, yeah, they are beside each other a little bit, yeah.
So
I did it
squeeze
try
your
that.
fingers together really, really tight.
I always chop my fingers off. I've only cut myself 3 times since we started, so I'm gonna try my
It's hard, it's hard that strength, trying to build that strength up.
Yeah.
in those-
But you will.
in your fingers, so it is.
My little sausages are just terrible.
Yeah.
And then back at 45. Taking some from the middle, 'cause I've already cut that. There's just a little bit right there.
As you get to the top, is there like less and less?
Yes,
that have
as
to
you,
follow?
if they have any type of layering or thinning or anything at the top, as you're pulling this down, you will have less and less decay. For sure. We're doing the same thing. Pulling this out at 45. There's my guidelines. You do it again. That one didn't really have that in it. Combing this back out. 45, there's my guideline. Do it again. Coming it straight out at 45. There's my guideline. Pulling a little bit from that section I just cut. Coming this straight out again. There's my guideline here, and I can see my guideline on the other side. You have to make sure that you can see that guideline or you're gonna get lost in it. And again, straight down.
Notice she's not cutting past her second knuckle, cause if you do, you'll get into here. If you ever cut yourself right in there, it hurts and it bleeds bad. So you're only cutting like that right here. You don't take the scissors out, and go up here. It can hurt. I've done it.
Me too, I got scarred.
also, it changes the angle of the haircut, your finger angling and stuff. When you go past your second knuckle, it'll throw it all off. Doing it again. Pulling it all down. 45. There's my guideline. And again. There's a little long piece that I missed, so I'm gonna pick this up right here and find it. There it is. All this straight down, 45. There's my guideline right here. I'm gonna make this cut. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Make it look pretty.
Well, I've had a lot of practice.
How long have you done hair?
I graduated in 2016. So, 6 years.
I'm about to say, I was about to sound like 4, but it's definitely been longer than that.
Top of the class, too.
Yeah, I definitely worked my butt off, and I practiced a lot and went to a lot of classes even after I still go to classes. This industry is constantly changing, and there's always new techniques, new products, new ways of doing things. And so if you ever get to a point where you feel like you know everything about hair, you might as well quit it. Because I am your teacher, but I still learn every single time I step behind my chair. Every single time.
When the learning stops, your career stops.
In that slideshow for state boards, like all the state board stuff, like, didn't it say every 5 years you're supposed to, or something like that, you're supposed to
You
like
have
update
to do
knowledge or
continuing
something?
education hours,
Yeah.
but 3 of those are in sanitation, safety, and health. But you can earn hours by going to hair shows and taking classes.
And the thing about it, is, you know how Miss Susan has told y'all a couple of times about me as a student, my work ethic, and that's one of the reasons why I'm teaching now and all that stuff. If you apply that work ethic to every part of this industry, you're gonna be able to reach limits that you didn't even know was possible. The last time I went to a color class, I was in Savannah, and it was a Pulp Riot color class where they had 2 of their platform artists there. I'm sitting there, that woman she only had to give me half a chance. That's all I needed was half a chance. And I'm sitting there watching her, and she was doing her back like this, and she said, "Man, I wish I had an assistant to blow dry this girl. Can I help you?" And she was like, "Really? Absolutely. Please let me blow dry your client." And I got to stand up there and work with the platform artists for Pulp Riot. All because I volunteered a little bit of my time to help them. Got pictures with them, still talk to them on Facebook, and I got an open invitation anytime I go to Florida. All because I was wanting to blow dry her client. So your work ethic will put you in the hands of people, and they really do appreciate that. And comb this back out.
That's what we're putting on the home for real.
Not really a lot right there. I'm gonna comb this back out. There's a little bit right there. I'm gonna come over here to this side. and make that cut. Come back over here. Combing this back out at 45. There's my guideline. Just gonna double check myself. And again. I'm gonna let my guideline slip through my fingers just a little bit so I don't cut it. And that is the back part of a 45-degree haircut. And we're gonna come over here on this side. We're gonna pull down a little subsection because we're gonna establish our guide over here. Now we established our guide back here by doing a 0 degree. So that's how we're gonna do this one. Only thing we're doing is pulling this straight down, finding that guideline, and making that cut, because she wants all of her hair the same length. She just wants a few longer layers throughout it, okay? We're gonna pull this down right here. Another little subsection, no bigger than an inch. You wanna be able to see your guideline. I'm gonna comb this down. Now I'm gonna go right here behind the ear. Take a little bit of this section. Now I'm combing this part down at 45, just like I did everything else. I can see my guideline. Taking another subsection. Combing this. I can see my guideline down here and on the other side from my previous section, so I know it's safe for me to make that cut. My guideline from down here is my stationary guideline. The guideline that I'm pulling from these sections, that's my traveling guide. Okay. Now her hair is getting a little bit dry at the root. It's very important in your haircuts that you keep it completely saturated throughout, because if her roots are dry and her ends are wet, her hair's uneven and your haircut will be too. Okay, we're gonna do it again. Pulling this down at 45. There's my guideline. Making that cut. Doing it again. Straight down at 45. And if you need to drop your guideline, I would rather you do that than accidentally cut it. And we are just taking horizontal subsections, but we're also taking vertical subsections here for our cutting. Just like you would the 90. But we're going straight down to 45. There's your guidelines. Straight down. There it is. Right there. And that's it. Keep moving this up. as I'm working through her hair with my comb and I'm holding my shears in the same hand, I'm making sure that I'm gripping them so my blade's not slightly open and I'm not taking chunks of her hair out, okay? Straight down, 45. There it is. And again, straight down. There it is. You make your cut. I'll go ahead and drop this down. Okay. "45 degrees. There's not anything right there. And there's not anything there for me to cut. And if that happens, that's okay. Follow your guideline. Just because you cut everywhere else and that's the first place I didn't have to make a cut, she might have a random layer right there. I don't know what this girl did, but all I know is that I'm not cutting it shorter than my guideline. And so if there's nothing that you need to cut, then there's nothing you need to cut. Straight down. And I mean, in all honesty, y'all might have this happen one day. I have a client that gets regularly drug tested and gets chunks of her hair cut out for their tests that they do or whatever. And so sometimes I have to work around all those little really short pieces throughout her hair. So it's really important to stick to your guideline. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing on this side. We're gonna pull down a subsection about 1 inch. We're establishing our length on this side and our guideline. We're gonna pull this down at 0 degrees, just like we did the rest. I'm gonna make this cut. There's my guideline right there on that side. Straight down. Okay. Now this is where we're going to start taking our horizontal sections. Stop spraying. Okay. Now I'm going to take a little bit from this section back here that I've cut, and here. I think it's hard for me to do this. There we go. I was taught to cut in front, and so y'all gonna have to bear with me moving to the side. Okay. Down here. There's my guideline right there. There it is. I'm going to take this from this section, this subsection here, and brush it out vertically at 45 degrees. Find your guideline and make that cut. And again. Again, there's my guideline. Yes, at 45. There's my guideline right there. I make that cut. Got a 1/2 inch subsection. We do it again. If my client would quit moving,
That was Miss Katie, she hit her in the head.
I think I saw her stab one of them in the head one time.
Ooh, I wouldn't doubt it. It's crazy.
Back at 45. There's my guideline. It's not a whole lot to cut right there, and that's okay. Bringing this back at 45. There's my guideline. I make that cut. Taking a little bit from back here. And again, straight down at 45. Here's my guideline. Here's my guideline right there. Now I can make that cut, and that's done. I'll go ahead and bring this down. $45. Here's my guideline. Holding it straight down. Going it straight down at 45. There we go. Now, taking a little bit from the section before it, combing it into this section, combing it straight down at 45, finding my guideline, making that cut. There's my guideline. Good. There's my guideline there. You can see how her layers kind of start right here. Right there. That is a long layered haircut. All of her layers are down here at the bottom. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? I know that our job a lot of times can get extremely repetitive and takes a lot of patience for certain people. But your clients notice. I had a client yesterday, when I was doing her hair, she said, you know, you've been doing this for so long, I would have done cheated. I would have been doing big old streak over here, and she said, I've been trying to get through this thing. She said, but you do every single piece exactly the same way. And I said, yes ma'am. I said, it's right that way. My name's on it. I'm out here trying to make a living. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm trying to do this thing right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, your clients notice. They might not know what you're doing. They might not know what to call it, but they notice if you're really taking your time with them. And it means a lot to them, okay? So y'all go ahead and prepare your mannequins. If y'all have any questions or need any help at all, please don't hesitate to ask us.